Aging isn't about slowing down, it's about stepping into your power. Welcome to Don't Let the Old Lady In, the podcast where we challenge outdated beliefs about getting older and embrace wellness, self-love, and confidence. Your host is Lori Gardner, a registered nurse and nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, and she is your guide on this journey to vibrant, mindful living. Each episode will explore topics that nourish your mind, body, and spirit and how to navigate health issues in the healthcare system as you age so you can live with energy, purpose, and joy. Let's get started. Here's your host, Lori Gardner. Welcome back, ladies, to Don't Let the Old Lady In podcast. This is Lori Gardner, and I'm so thrilled to be here with one of my favorite topics, how to negotiate a medical bill and when. This is not easy, ladies, so I really want to give you some essential information, but also know I'm going to underpin this with sometimes it's not the greatest thing to do this on your own. That's why we, as patient advocates and insurance advocates, can help you. So keep that in mind. But so this is a podcast to refuse to let age slow us down, right? So if you've ever been hit with a surprise bill after a hospital visit or medical procedure, you know how shocking it can be. But here's the good news. You have rights, you have power, and you absolutely can, I repeat, can negotiate those bills down. Today, I'm going to show you how. Share some real success stories and empower you with insider tips you can use right away. Understand before you act. So first things first, ladies. Before you pick up the phone to negotiate, you need to understand exactly what you're being billed for and do your homework. Request an itemized bill. I will tell you, oftentimes you get a bill, especially for a hospitalization, that looks itemized. A lot of times it's not. You've got to call and you've got to ask for an itemized bill. That will break down every charge line by line. Next thing you need to do is check for errors. Common mistakes include duplicate charges, services you didn't receive, or incorrect billing codes. I'll have another session in the future on how to manage and navigate a hospitalization, but one big thing to do, ladies, keep a notebook, or have a loved one keep a notebook, or an advocate like myself, where we keep track of every doctor that's seen you, every test that's taken, all your medications, everything, so that those records, you can always get your medical records and compare those to your bills as well for a check. So that's number 2. Number 3, verify with your insurance. Sometimes insurance companies miss covering certain services they should pay for. I tell you, I do a lot of community talks on this subject, and the first thing I will say is do not pay that first bill. It takes sometimes 2 to 3 cycles before they get the number right. I can't go into I'm confounded half the time by how they come up with these bills and the pricing and all of that. But just know that oftentimes, I kind of tested this for one bill I received. And I called and I said, why do I owe $98 for a sonogram? I know my insurance covers it. Well, we have to pass it through a couple of cycles. I said, so if I had paid the $98, what would happen? Your guess is as good as mine. So verify with your insurance. Definitely. And also make sure you're matching your costs that you're getting from the provider with your explanation of benefits. So here's a real success story. Susan, a listener, from Arizona, reviewed her hospital bill after an outpatient procedure and noticed a $1,200 charge for a medication she never received. After calling the billing department and providing her medical records, the charge was removed, reducing her bill by 25%. This is essential that you do this, ladies. Okay, what's next? The power of the No Surprises Act. So this is a really good secret weapon that hasn't been around for the whole history I've run my business, because in the past, in fact, it happened to me. I had a son who had a procedure out of town. That was difficult as it was. He had to have surgery. I was on the phone with the surgeon, the hospital, you name it. I didn't check with the anesthesiologist, and we got a whopping $13,000 bill. He was out of network, and in those days, they didn't have to tell you, and they could charge whatever they wanted. Basically, that's what happened. So this No Surprises Act protects us from that. It was effective January 1st, 2022. And this law protects you against unexpected out-of-network bills in situations where you had no choice, the emergencies, or when you are treated by an out-of-network provider at an in-network hospital. So in other words, if you go to a hospital, they have to treat you in the emergency room. If the hospital's in network, you're covered, even if you're cared for by an out-of-network provider. You are covered. So the key protections are emergency services must be billed at an in-network rate, whether or not you had pre-authorization. Non-emergency services at in-network facilities, if an out-of-network doctor treats you without your consent, you can only be billed the in-network amount. Air ambulance services, you're protected even if they are out of network. So again, here's an example. After an emergency gallbladder surgery, a client had received a $4,600 bill from an out-of-network anesthesiologist she never chose. Thanks to the No Surprises Act, she contested the bill, and it was adjusted to her in-network rate, saving her thousands of dollars. So here's a question for you, for all of us. What if you didn't get pre-authorization and you were supposed to? Maybe you're thinking, I forgot to get pre-authorization. Am I stuck? Not necessarily. Listen up. Here's the deal. If it was emergency care, you're protected under the No Surprises Act, even without pre-authorization. If it was non-emergency care, you may need to negotiate more carefully. Appeal to your insurance company, especially if you can prove that it was medically necessary. Ask your healthcare provider to help advocate with the insurer if needed. If the service wasn't pre-authorized but should have been, you can still negotiate discounts directly with the provider based on financial hardship or prompt payment. I had a situation where there was a traumatic incident and happened to a family. 2 or 3 of the family members had to be airlifted to the hospital. 1 child had to be airlifted. They had a $55,000 bill for one of the children that just wasn't getting covered. And it was a very complicated case. Let's just leave it at that. I called up the insurance company, and if you give prompt payment, they will work with you. And I basically said, listen, I give you a charge card right now, $500. We'll take it. Done. So that's a hot tip. That is a hot tip, but I want to also encourage you, don't necessarily go this alone. You know, we have consultations, we can help you do this. So here's a tip. Use phrases like, what can we do to adjust this? Or, is there a discount for immediate payment? To open the door for negotiation. Always be kind and respectful. Never ignore a bill, because that's when they'll come after you. But if you call and say, listen, I'm having a little difficulty, I need to understand the bill more, I need to get in touch with my insurance company and check if things are correct, they will put the account on hold. You can ask them, put the account on hold while I work through this. Be aware, though, that with this new One Big Beautiful bill that was recently passed, traditional Medicare adds prior authorization for 17 high-risk services to combat. They're trying to combat the fraud, the waste, and abuse by using AI-enhanced technology. There is a lot of abuse out there, ladies. And so just be aware of this, because traditionally, you didn't have to get pre-authorization for these things necessarily on Medicare, but they're piloting this in 6 states. One is New Jersey, where I am located, Ohio, Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, and Washington. Some of these services include things like nerve stimulators, epidural steroid injections for pain management, and more. So make sure you check on this. So let's go through some proven negotiation strategies, ladies. When you're ready to negotiate, stay calm but persistent. Some strategies that work are ask for an immediate discount for paying in cash or quickly, like I had mentioned before. Request financial assistance. Many hospitals offer programs based on your income. Propose a payment plan. Negotiate for 0% interest if possible. And I have done that. We've done that on many occasions. Quote fair market prices. Use sites like Healthcare Blue Book and Fair Health Consumer to show what the service should actually cost. You can go from one side of the town have an MRI that costs $5,000, and on the other side of the town it costs $800. So be aware. Sometimes you have these imaging studies done in a large hospital center. It definitely is going to cost you more. So here's a success tip. Get any agreement in writing before you send payments, okay? Everything get in writing. Get everything in writing for pre-authorizations, everything you negotiate. So, in conclusion, remember, you are not powerless when it comes to your healthcare costs. Know your rights, check your bills, speak up, negotiate respectfully but persistently. Never give up. I negotiated one bill. Some of our bigger bills, itemized bills and our bigger clients, they can take close to a year sometimes to get it all done because of the back and forth and checking medical records and checking the hundreds of pages of medical records against the bill. So never give up. I actually had an experience with my own son who had a big jaw surgery, and I was promised that everything would be fine. Well, it wasn't. I got billed out of network. Long story short, I kept at it. I called the New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance to get some help there. They were very helpful. I got a peer-to-peer review. I had a phone call with the medical staff there, and I was successful in drilling that down. But boy, did that hang on my shoulders for 10 months because it was, I think, a $16,000 bill. So each phone call, email, and appeal can really lead to significant savings and peace of mind. So make sure you document everything. Every time you call an insurance company, write down that reference number, keep meticulous records, because that in the end is going to help you do an appeal. It's going to help you potentially go to your state department that regulates insurance companies with a good case. But ladies, I think you got this. Don't let the medical bills drain your energy or your bank account. I literally let that incident in my family drain me of energy. And you know why? Because I hadn't started my business. I didn't have the expertise. And I let it drain my energy because I wasn't sure as I do. And I just knew that I had to become a pit bull and go at it. So what I'm offering to you is to save your energy, enlist our services. We can do this with you, for you. We work very closely with people on budgets and all of that. But don't go it alone, because it is just as confusing and complicated and fragmented as the healthcare system. So ladies, thanks for tuning in today to Don't Let the Old Lady In. I hope this episode has helped you, and I invite you to follow me, leave a review, leave a comment. I'd love to hear back from you if you have any questions. But until next time, remember, you have more power than you think over those medical bills, and we're here to help you. So save your energy, give us a call. Otherwise, go at it with the tips I gave you. Until next time, ladies, stay powerful and don't let that old lady in. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Don't Let the Old Lady In. Remember, age is just a number. Your mindset, energy, and passion are what truly define you. If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend. Subscribe and leave a review so we can continue this journey together. You are strong, vibrant, and unstoppable. Until next time, keep living boldly, loving yourself fully, and most importantly, don't let the old lady in.